Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw tells the World Economic Forum at Davos that India to grow 6 to 8% in real terms, 10 to 13 nominal terms in next 5 years. President Trump signals talks with NATO on Greenland ahead of reaching Davos, assures good news for both sides. An EU Commission president says Europe needs its own levers of power in an increasingly lawless world. Electronics and Information Technology Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw has called India a resilient economy. He said that India is to grow at 6 to 8% in real terms and 10 to 13% in nominal terms in the next 5 years. Speaking in Davos at a session on Can India become the third largest economy in the world, Minister Vaishnaw said that India's exports have increased despite tariffs and that fundamentals of the economy are so strong that it will help the country sail through the turbulent period.
Fundamentals, macro as well as micro, are very strong, and that's really helped us through this turbulent period. Our exports have actually increased despite the tariffs. Our producers are finding new markets. We are growing our export sector in multiple ways. For example, electronics exports has now become the third largest exported commodity out of India, after, of course, engineered goods and petroleum products, which was like unbelievable even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, this was unbelievable.
And Minister Vaishnaw spoke about cooperative federalism, where the national and state governments work together to usher in reforms. He mentioned a range of reforms that have taken place which have been made possible because of cooperative federalism.
Follow a model of cooperative federalism where the central government and the state governments, we work together to bring out many of the reforms. And some of the reforms which are happening in Maharashtra, in Andhra Pradesh, in Odisha, many of these reforms are now becoming the template for other states to follow. And the labor reforms implementation is a major step. GST simplification, labor reforms, opening the nuclear energy sector to private sector, and reforms in practically every sector. We have two groups of ministers which are working on half the ministries in one group, half the ministries in other group, where we are going down to the procedural reforms, to legal reforms, to every possible reform that we can have.
The minister spoke about how the government has changed laws and procedures to make them forward-looking and simplify them and make them technology-enabled.
A big exercise is right now going to reshape the legal structure tuned to modern times, because many of the laws were written in a time when the government and the political setup of that period, I'm saying of the early, from 1950 to 1990, that was a period when the governments were basically very inward-looking. They were very protectionist. Every sector, we are trying to bring in a totally new legal framework, a totally new procedural framework built on the technology stack that we have.
And speaking at the same event, Geeta Gopinath, the Gregory and Anaya Coffey Professor of Economics at Harvard University in the US, highlighted India's robust growth momentum and favorable long-term outlook.
Without a doubt, India will become the third largest economy of the world. It's a matter of a few years, unless something catastrophic happens. If you just look at the math in terms of India's growth rate relative to Germany and Japan, it would be very hard to see how India would not get there. And based on current projections, India gets there by 2028. Substantial reforms have been undertaken. The physical infrastructure build-out is impressive. The digital infrastructure build-out is impressive. What was done with the goods and services tax, including the simplification recently, extremely helpful.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and his Spanish counterpart Jose Manuel Alvarez held discussions in New Delhi on Wednesday. In his opening remarks, Minister Jaishankar spoke about trade, investment, defense, technology, education and people-to-people ties. He lauded India's and Spain's friendly relations rooted in shared democratic values and respect for multilateralism and rules-based order.
Excellency, India and Spain enjoy warm and friendly relations rooted in shared democratic values and respect for multilateralism and a rule-based order. Our political engagement has grown steadily, marked by regular high-level exchanges. India and Spain will celebrate in 2026, this year, the 70th anniversary of the establishment of our diplomatic relations, as well as the dual year of culture, tourism, and artificial intelligence. This initiative reflects our shared commitment to combining our rich cultural heritage with future-oriented cooperation.
Minister Jaishankar reiterated India's stand on zero tolerance against terrorism, underscoring that this stance is especially significant in the global fight against a scourge that has affected both India and Spain.
The world order is clearly undergoing a profound change. It is more imperative than ever before for nations to collaborate on shared challenges. This is particularly the case with respect to combating terrorism, where both India and Spain have been victims. The world must display zero tolerance towards terrorism.
And speaking on the economic partnership, Minister Jaishankar highlighted Spain as an important pillar of India's bilateral relations. He noted that Spain is among India's key trade partners within the European Union, with bilateral trade in goods surpassing $8 billion in recent years.
Economic partnership is an important pillar of our relationship. Spain is among India's important trade partners in the EU, and our bilateral trade in goods has crossed $8 billion in recent years. Spanish companies have a significant presence in India, particularly in infrastructure, renewable energy, urban mobility, engineering, water management, and smart cities.
On his part, the Spanish foreign minister termed India as a reliable country. The minister said that President Sanchez will visit India and he hoped that Prime Minister Modi will visit Spain too. The Spanish minister says that Spain will upgrade its ties with India to a strategic association, which is the highest level of ties. The minister backs the conclusion of an India-EU FTA, saying that it's the right time.
A very good sign would be the final agreement of the FTA with the European Union that we very much would love to see being put forward finally. It's the right time for that. We will also express our wish of upgrading our relationship to a strategic association that is the highest level of relationship that we have with friends, like is the case in India.
In a significant outcome of the meeting, Spain joined the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. The Foreign Minister of Spain handed over the signed declaration of accession to Minister Jaishankar. India looks forward to working with Spain under the framework of the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative for a free and open Indo-Pacific. The initiative's overarching goal is to promote peace, stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific through an open, inclusive and collaborative approach. Meanwhile, India and Spain are celebrating 70 years of establishment of diplomatic relations this year. To mark the occasion, the ministers of India and Spain jointly unveiled the India-Spain logo, marking the dual year of culture, tourism and artificial intelligence. And still to come on DD India Live. The US seizes Venezuela oil tanker. President Trump praises opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. And in cricket, India to face New Zealand in the first of 5 T20Is in Nagpur.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. US President Donald Trump will be reaching Davos shortly to attend the World Economic Forum, ahead of which President Trump said that he would hold several meetings to address his intention to take control of Greenland. While insisting that the US needs control of Greenland, President Trump was confident that something is going to happen that is going to be good for everybody regarding tensions between the US and Europe.
We have a lot of meetings scheduled on Greenland, and I think things are going to work out pretty well. I think that we will work something out where NATO is going to be very happy and where we're going to be very happy. But we need it for security purposes. We need it for national security and even world security.
After speaking with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, President Trump said in a Truth Social post that Greenland was imperative for national and world security and that there could be no going back. He added that everyone agreed on that. President Trump's bid to claim sovereignty over Greenland from Denmark has raised concerns about straining NATO and sparking a renewed trade conflict with Europe. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen gave a stern message at the European Parliament, saying that the 27-nation bloc must move faster to boost its economy and defenses faced with a new world order defined by raw power. She was speaking on geopolitical tensions and the need for the EU to be stronger and more sovereign. Von der Leyen said that the first pillar of EU action in Greenland will be a massive investment surge to support economy and infrastructure. She said that the future of Greenland is only for Greenlanders to decide.
We are at a crossroads. Europe prefers dialogue and solutions, but we are fully prepared to act, if necessary, with unity, urgency, and determination. Greenland is not just a territory in a key region of the world map and a land rich in critical raw materials, a strategic outpost on emerging global sea routes. It's all of these things. But above all, Greenland is home to a free and sovereign people. It is a nation with its sovereignty and its right to territorial integrity. And the future of Greenland is only for the Greenlanders to decide.
And for more on what we can expect from President Trump's visit to Davos, we're joined by DW's Emily Leshner in Berlin. Emily, what do we know about President Trump's agenda at Davos and the speech he is going to deliver today?
Well, until very recently, President Trump had planned to talk about things like affordability and housing. But as tensions have escalated around Greenland very quickly, that, of course, has changed. So now Trump is reportedly going to speak about his intention to take Greenland through either a purchase or seizure. When Trump was asked last night how far he was willing to go to get Greenland, he responded simply, "You'll find out." So this is certainly the main topic of discussion at Davos right now. It's overshadowing a lot of the other things that are taking place. Now, aside from this speech, there have also been reports that Trump will meet with might meet with EU leaders on the sidelines to discuss Greenland, but we don't have many more details about that yet. And aside from this speech and perhaps this meeting with EU leaders, we know that Trump has also invited CEOs from around the world to a reception that he's hosting, but again, no exact details on what he plans to discuss with them.
Some sense of what he is going to say, but what's been the reaction from European leaders at this point?
Well, several leaders have made pointed remarks directed at Trump and his agenda. Some are lamenting what they see as an irreversible shift in Western democracies. Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever said that his country wasn't sure it could count on the U.S. under Trump as an ally anymore. Then you had Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who has remarked that the old global order was not coming back. French President Emmanuel Macron also talked about how imperial ambitions are replacing democratic values. And we just heard European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in your program in this very strongly worded address that she delivered to the forum. She also mentioned that Europe would be, quote, unflinching, united and proportional in response to Trump's threats. She's, of course, referring to this threat of a U.S. takeover of Greenland, but she's also referring to Trump's tariff threat. And that's to increase tariffs up to 25% on the 8 countries that sent troops to Greenland recently for an exercise, those 8 countries, including Germany, where I am. Von der Leyen also spoke about Europe's commitment to free trade and pointed to its success in securing trade agreements with India and with Mercosur countries recently to show that it is able to stand on its own.
Emily, thank you. Emily Lesch reporting there from Berlin. Right, moving on to some other stories we are tracking here on DD India Live, with President Trump not ruling out using military force to seize the island of Greenland. NATO members are mulling over ways to respond. France has asked for a NATO exercise in Greenland and is ready to contribute to it. The announcement comes amid rising tensions as President Trump at Davos is expected to intensify his controversial efforts to acquire Greenland despite substantial European opposition. Earlier, speaking in Davos on Tuesday, President Emmanuel Macron of France said that Europe would not give in to bullies or be intimidated, in a scathing criticism of President Trump's threat to impose steep tariffs if Europe does not let him take over Greenland. NATO leaders have voiced serious concerns about the potential repercussions of President Trump's Greenland strategy, which he has controversially linked to his personal grievances over not receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. The situation marks a significant strain in transatlantic relations. The UK and Denmark will hold defense talks in Copenhagen on Wednesday, focusing on security in the Arctic region. The two countries will discuss about how European nations can step up security in the High North, a term used to refer to the European Arctic, which includes the island of Greenland, a self-governing territory of Denmark. The UK and Denmark want to protect critical national infrastructure in the Baltics and the High North. On the financial angle, Europe is now considering deploying a trade bazooka, a powerful multi-layered instrument in its arsenal of economic deterrence, a part of which is the announcement expected by the European Parliament on Wednesday itself on the suspension of the approval of the U.S. trade deal agreed to in July last year. The agreement set U.S. levies on most European goods at 15%, down from the 30% President Trump had initially threatened as part of his Liberation Day wave of tariffs in April. In exchange, Europe had agreed to invest in the U.S. and make changes on the continent expected to boost U.S. exports. The deal still needed approval from the European Parliament to become official. The U.S. President Trump claimed that his government has taken millions of barrels of Venezuelan crude, is selling some on the open market, and is now in talks with opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. The move comes as Caracas reports fresh oil revenues, lawmakers prepare legal reforms, And the US forces continue to seize tankers in the Caribbean. Harshita Oberoi reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump said the United States has taken 50 million barrels of oil out of Venezuela and is selling part of it on the open market, a move he claims is aimed at lowering global oil prices and reviving Venezuela's struggling energy sector. Speaking to reporters on Tuesday, Trump said controlling Venezuela's oil resources is central to his administration's strategy in Latin America. While shipping data suggests the oil has not yet been fully exported, Trump said the move signals major U.S. involvement in Venezuela's energy future.
We're talking to her, and maybe we can get her involved in some way. I'd love to be able to do that. Maria, maybe we can do that. The oil companies are getting ready to make massive investments there.
Alongside the oil push, Trump confirmed a shift in political engagement. Trump said Washington is holding discussions with Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado about a possible role in the country. Praising her leadership, he said talks are ongoing and added he would welcome her involvement. Trump ruled out any contact with former President Nicolas Maduro, saying his lawyers would strongly oppose it, particularly over allegations linked to interference in the 2020 U.S. election. In Caracas, the effects of U.S. oil control are already being felt. Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, said the country has received $300 million in oil revenue, the first proceeds from the 50 million barrel oil supply arrangement announced by Trump after Maduro's capture earlier this month. She said the funds deposited in an account in Qatar will be split among 4 Venezuelan banks, allowing them to sell dollars to local companies and help stabilize the exchange market.
We must report that funds from oil sales have been received. The first $500 million has been received and $300 million has been received. These funds will be used to cover and finance our workers' incomes, to protect the purchasing power of Venezuelan workers.
As revenue flows resume, lawmakers are moving to change the rules. Venezuela's National Assembly President George Rodriguez announced broad reforms to the country's oil laws, citing a new political context. He said the agenda includes changes to the hydrocarbons laws to attract foreign investment. Under current legislation, foreign companies must operate through joint ventures controlled by state oil firm PDVSA. Meanwhile, enforcement continues at sea. The U.S. military said it seized another Venezuela-linked tanker in the Caribbean, the 7th such interception since Trump launched his campaign to control Venezuela's oil exports. U.S. Southern Command said the vessel was apprehended without incident, underscoring Washington's determination to ensure Venezuelan oil is exported only through approved channels. Harshita Oberoi's report, DD India.
From conflicts to financial instability, the world order is getting increasingly fragile, a reference to which was made by Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney in a speech at Davos. He said that the old order is not coming back and urged fellow middle powers to band together. He called on countries to stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised.
Great powers can afford for now to go it alone. They have the market size, the military capacity, and the leverage to dictate terms. Middle powers do not. But when we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness. We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating. This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination. First, it means naming reality. Stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. Call it what it is. A system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion. It means acting consistently, applying the same standards to allies and rivals.
And now to all the news from the world of sport. India's final preparations for the ICC T20 World Cup 2026 begin with a 5-match T20 series against New Zealand, starting with the opening match in Nagpur on Wednesday. After a 2-1 defeat in the ODI series, Team India, led by Surya Kumar Yadav, will aim to bounce back in the shortest format. New Zealand arrived with confidence after achieving several firsts over the past year, including a Test series whitewash and their first ever bilateral ODI series win in India. Now the visitors will look to script another milestone in T20 cricket as well.
India's final preparations for the ICC T20 World Cup begins with the high-intensity 5-match T20 series against New Zealand. The opening match of the series will be played in Nagpur on Wednesday. After the conclusion of the ODI series, where New Zealand clinched 2-1 victory, the focus now shifts to the shortest format of the game. For Team India, this series offers a chance to bounce back and regain momentum ahead of the global tournament. Led by Surya Kumar Yadav, India see this series as the last major opportunity to fine-tune combination as players form and settle crucial selection questions before the World Cup, which begins on February 7 in India and Sri Lanka. New Zealand, captained by Mitchell Santner.
And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. You can get the latest news on the DD India mobile app on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code to download it. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.